News 12's tournament coverage is sponsored by Southern Industries, Windsor Jewelers, Just Beds, Hamricks, Augusta Oncology, and Master Chevrolet.
We are getting our first look at some really wild video of a tornado in Sumter County, Georgia. Check this out. You can see this twister just tearing through a field down there. All this happening about 30 miles north of Albany. South Georgia was really hit hard by all this, but just amazing that this person with their camera was able to get this close and stay this close as this tornado rips across the field in South Georgia. An amazing sight to see. I'm guessing that's a storm chaser because otherwise you would not want to be that close to a twister. But that's the scene out of South Georgia in Sumter County. On the South Carolina side, a look at Allendale County after a destructive tornado on Tuesday. The National Weather Service had a storm crew down there on the ground, and today we're learning they've seen damage that indicates an EF3 tornado. That's just preliminary observations. They'll make that official sometime tomorrow. But look at that destruction on the ground. So many trees. No one lost their lives here. 3 people injured, and the damage to homes and buildings is significant. The drone video is from right there on the line of Bamberg and Allendale counties. Easy to see the path of that storm when you get above it. Meanwhile, a second round of storms sweeping through Swainsboro last night after communities were already working to recover from a first round and a first tornado. A second twister confirmed in Emmanuel County, only about 10 minutes from downtown near Kemp Road. You're taking a look at some of the new damage there as those crews on the ground are just getting started in a long cleanup. Coming up next half hour, we're going to bring you a closer look at the damage along with all those massive recovery efforts. Riley, it's been a couple of days like we've never seen before, but what about that twister forming just about 30 miles away from Albany? Fascinating shot there.
Yeah, and that twister was categorized as an EF3 as well. So if you think that's the same type of conditions, the one that Allendale and Bamberg County likely moved through. So just as strong and just crazy to see the amount of trees that were just completely wiped out.
Like matchsticks.
Absolutely, it's similar to what you kind of see in a hurricane or something like that. But incredible video. Definitely appreciate our crew heading down to Allendale and getting that drone video for us. And one thing to mention is still
Trail.org. That's cheerstrail.org.
SLED investigating an officer-involved shooting in Aiken County. The sheriff's office tells us this happened at East Pine Log Road and Charleston Highway. It's right in front of the in-market gas station there. SLED says the man who was shot in an encounter with a federal agent with the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, an ATF agent. Aiken County deputies were called in to assist, but they were not involved in the initial shooting, and SLED is in charge of this investigation. A 75-year-old woman found dead in an Aiken house fire overnight. The Department of Public Safety responding to the call on Reed Drive last night around 11. Officials say the woman was just inside her front door, identified as Elise Oliphant, who will be autopsied in Newberry. SLED is working to find out the cause of that fatal fire. A local home severely damaged after it was hit by lightning early this morning. The Harlan Fire Department says the call came in just before 12:30 when crews got to the scene. The second floor of the attic area were engulfed in flames. Firefighters spending hours getting that one under control. Everyone inside made it out safely. There were no injuries there. Local COVID cases continue to decline in Aiken Regional Medical Centers. They're relaxing visitor guidelines. Loved ones can now pay a visit 24/7. Only 2 people can go at a time, but still there's no limit to the number of visitors in a day. Visitors have to be at least 21 years old, but they will make exceptions if the patient is near the end of life. You do still need to wear a medical-grade mask, which means no cloth mask, and those changes begin on Monday. Today, Ketanji Brown, part of the fabric at Augusta National, and Tom Watson showing he really belongs there on the first team. Very special moments, Meredith, this morning, weren't they?
Chills.
Absolutely. Thanks for the live update there from the National. Swainsboro hit by a second round of severe weather, plus rising water levels causing flooding on the Savannah River. We're going to take a look at both coming up.
Luckily, no severe storms the next couple of days, but it is going to stay very...
We reached out to the Weather Service to see how strong they believe those tornadoes were, but we are waiting to hear back from them. Celeste Springer on the ground for us across from the Swainsboro Golf Course with a look at more of the damage and the cleanup efforts there.
There is a lot of cleanup still needing to be done here. And guys, take a look at what they're working on. This tree over here, and this unfortunately is not a rarity here in Swainsboro. We've been seeing down trees like this all day long. The golf course across the street also got hit. An employee tells us they had about 25 to 30 trees down across that property. They fired about 9 extra people Keep in mind, this is the second round of storms to hit Swainsboro. Back to back, they've been hit. The National Weather Service says they're almost certain the first round was a tornado. We're still waiting to hear from them on the classifications. But for those who experienced it firsthand, the craziness of the storm was over just as quick as it came on.
I don't know how it was real dark. I know that. We busted in the door and we ran into the hallway, and by the time we got to the hallway, it was all over with.
Definitely still a lot more work to be done. You can hear them working away with that chainsaw, but I will say a lot of people are in bright spirits. Denton himself tells me he's just ready to get cleaned up so he can head out to the lake. But coming up at News 12 at 6 o'clock, if you guys think that this is bad, well, just you wait, because we have way more severe storm damage coverage coming up in the next half hour. In Swainsboro, Celeste Springer on your side.
Some massive trees on the ground there. Celeste Springer, thanks very much for that. Pieces of golf history.
This is News 12 at 6 o'clock.
After 2 days in a row of tornadoes and severe storms, communities across the river region are picking up the pieces today. We have team coverage from hard-hit Emmanuel County, as well as downtown Augusta, where floodwaters on the Savannah River are so high, some cars are underwater there. But first up, the first round of the 2022...
Gas into the weekend, just about 10 minutes.
We have new video in from North Augusta showing yards underwater. This is shot by a viewer in the River North community, right there along the Savannah River on the South Carolina side. You can see streets also flooded across town in the River Hills neighborhood. That's near Stevens Creek. Over the Lock and Dam, a similar situation what we're seeing in the 5th Street Marina. The Savannah Riverkeeper took out their drone, and you can see the river is just a dark brown in color. They say the National Weather Service expects the river to rise even more, another half foot to a foot overnight before cresting. The Army Corps of Engineers says the flooding we're seeing today is from all that rainwater that fell below the Lake Thurman Dam, making its way downstream, and it is a mess. Check out this bird's eye view of the 5th Street Marina, downtown Augusta. Today, we sent our Sky 12 drone up just to show you those river levels there and how much spillover there is. You can see cars parked near the marina almost completely underwater. That's the Savannah River way out of its banks. News 12's Kennedy Harris joining me now live from the marina. Kennedy, you say the water levels are only getting higher there since you've been out there.
Yeah, Richard, we've been out here a couple of hours, and the only thing we've seen is this water levels just continue to rise and rise. Where I'm standing right now, this is actually the roadway, and earlier today at around noon, we were actually on the other side of this caution tape, actually able to stand over there, but now you can see that that is just completely flooded. And if you take a look further back, you'll actually be able to see some of those cars that are submerged in water. 6 cars and at least 1 RV camper completely submerged. Now, the Riverkeeper says all of this was caused because of last night's heavy rainfall. All of the water is just returning from creeks, flowing into the river as it naturally does. But this much water was a surprise, and it's going to be a few days before it's back to normal.
We'll manage. We have boats, and people ask me, what do you do when it floods? I go, we're on a boat. You know, the dock goes up, the dock goes down. It doesn't make any difference to us.
For 20 years, Kent Kirks lived on a boat at the 5th Street Marina. He's seen waters high and low, but this was a surprise.
Has it been this bad, or is it about the same?
Probably the third worst. It's not the worst I've seen, but it may be before it's all over.
The Savannah Riverkeeper says these waters will continue to rise, at least a foot by the end of the day, and it could take days for it to go down completely.
Some of the tornadoes, all of that weather, lots of rain has dropped, and this is the outcome. So what falls on the ground eventually goes into creeks, streams, and then into the river. She's crested a lot very, very quickly. So unfortunately, the marina was taken by surprise last night.
The waters have submerged at least 6 cars, 1 RV, and at least 2 trash cans floated away from the marina. All boating docks have been closed off. Officials are urging you to stay out of the waters and let nature take its course.
You know, nature will do what it's going to do. When the rains come, the river floods. That's how it works. So it's actually a good thing for the river. It's flushing itself. It's cleaning itself.
In the meantime, Kent and friends will lend each other a hand, food delivery included.
You either love it or you hate it. And the people that love it stay here, and we are a good community. Everybody looks out for everybody.
So again, Safety is the priority. You're welcome to come down here, take a look at this, but stay out of the water. The riverkeeper is worried about oils and gas and possibly even sewage being in these waters, and they want to remind you that floodwaters are dangerous waters.
Kennedy Harrison of fast rising Savannah River. Thanks again for the live updates there. Just across the river in Allendale County, South Carolina, a new report from the National Weather Service in Charleston. Today, that survey crew says they found EF3 tornado damage. We're still waiting to hear how strong the storms were in Emmanuel County. A tornado first ripped through downtown Swainsboro in Georgia Tuesday, followed by another in the same area just last night. We have crews on the ground there for a look at conditions and the cleanup efforts underway, and we'll get to them in the next 10 minutes. Riley?
Yeah, significant rainfall the past couple of days, keeping those flood warnings in place.
And Master Chevrolet.
I was just warming up my muscles.
There you go.
Oh, look.
And there you'll see that.
Oh my gosh. So my dad and my brothers are golfers. I'm actually not bad at putt-putt, but sometimes I do hit a couple fives at first, but
There you go. There you go. Zeta Halliburton getting it done this morning. An amazing shot on our putting green. That's out right behind our station here at Riverwatch 920. She and Cliff Bennett getting golf tips from our friends just down the street at Top Golf for their 9 a.m. morning mix show. If you haven't seen it yet, be sure to watch it. It's a lot of fun. And what a great clutch putt on a difficult green. Riley, you and I both putted that green. It's fast, it's uneven, and she did it on live television.
I know it. Hats off to Zeta. I mean, a heck of a shot there. That is a tough putt. There's a good bit of slope on that putt on our putting green back there. So Zeta, as she mentioned, she comes from a family of golfers, and she is a heck of a golfer herself. So congrats there, Zeta. Good stuff. Hey, we did receive a lot of rain over the past.
After two tornadoes hit Swainsboro this week, the town is picking up the pieces today. News 12 Celeste Springer spent the day there and shows us how the community is working to bounce back from this.
We were already in Swainsboro this week when only about a block away, storms ripped off the entire roof of a building. But storms came through here again. And take a look at the damage left behind from this most recent round. This beautiful home now left surrounded by chaos.
While George Smith's grandkids came to town, there was another visitor. This one very much unwelcome. When we get back to school, we have to write an essay on what we did on spring break, and this is definitely going to be the subject. Back home, this storm is probably going to end up being the talk of the playground, but not so much for the one that used to be in their grandpa's backyard.
There's our playground right there.
Thankfully, despite a disheveled yard, this beautiful historic home still stands, now with even more stories to tell.
This house was built in 1883, and I believe these trees were planted at that time.
But for the trees, it's probably the end of the line for them. And unfortunately, many other trees too. An employee with the Swainsboro Golf Course tells us they have about 25 trees down. To help with the cleanup, they've now hired 9 more people. Across the street is where we find neighbors sorting through their own branches.
We was out on the porch right here. We was just messing around, and a big gust of wind come through, and I mean, it all happened so quick. It was like 15 seconds.
But as for what's next,
Clean up so we can go to the lake.
they're ready to get to work and excited to be able to kick their feet up after all of this is over. In Swainsboro, Celeste Springer on your side.
Celeste and the team there say everyone we spoke with today was in high spirits, all saying they're so thankful none of them were hurt during the storms that came through South Georgia. Riley?
Well, we will stay dry until